What's up, everybody? This is Kidmans here. We're starting a new playthrough of Fallout, at the same time answering the questions of life. So I looked up frequently asked questions of life. I got a couple. It was like 6 or 7 of them. I picked out 3 of them. I'll try to go over all 3 in this one video. We're getting started. The first question. Well, before I ask any questions, before I ask anything at all, first thing you should know is all these are just gonna be my opinion, of course. Like, none of these are actually the answers to like the questions of life. So you don't have to take my word for it. It's just my opinion. Honestly, you should think about all these questions and speculate what you think about them, and that's how you should live your life. You shouldn't let anybody else influence how you live your life. You should live your life the way you want to live it. I mean, there's times when, well, damn, this is loading a really long time. Alright guys, I'm back. Sorry there, I don't know what's going on. I guess my game needed to like sync or something, because it just kept loading and I exited out, and then it was syncing on my Steam library. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I was saying all these questions, I'm gonna give my opinion on how I feel about these questions, but you should like ask these questions to yourself, think about them, and answer them for yourself. Because a lot of these questions are pretty deep. You know, it's like frequent asked questions of life. So some pretty crazy stuff there when you start thinking pretty hard about it. And as I was saying, like, you should answer these questions to yourself and then live your life that way. I know that sometimes life seems like you can't live it the way you want to, because you're limited by the way society works. But there's been plenty of people who's said, I'm not going to live inside the box anymore, and they stepped out and they've done stuff that like people's noticed. I'm not going to tell you that if you do that, you're going to be that guy that steps outside of the box and changes the world. But, I mean, you'll never know unless you try. You may think there's something that you can't do, but in all actuality, you might can. But you'll never know until you try. But let's get on to these questions, because I'm rambling now. Pretty good at that. The first one is, what is the meaning of life? So, the meaning of life to me,
if I do say so myself,
I don't know. My feeling on like what the meaning of life is pretty basic. So, you're born. You go through all your kid stages of life and teenage stages. You're trying to figure out the world and figure yourself out.
You look as good as the day we met.
And like, those are like pretty awkward times for me. Like, I never really knew what I wanted to do with my life. And like,
pretty nice.
I didn't really understand like how the world worked. But as I got older, and I did things in my life, I made decisions because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to go to school for, or if I just wanted to get a job and not go to college. I decided that I'd join the military, and I joined the Marine Corps like straight out of high school, and it's been like 4.5 years since then, and I'm out of the Marine Corps now, and I'm going to college for computer sciences. Right now I'm learning simple like program design. Like, we're pretty much just going over a concept right now, but So like things like this have like, opened me up. Like spending 4 years somewhere where like I had no choice in like what I could do. Because like the Marine Corps is pretty strict. Like you don't just go on vacation. Like you have to get it approved. Like you accumulate so many days every month, like 2.5 days every month that you can take for like your vacation, and you can only take like 30 days a year. And I took about 10 days every year around Christmas, except for when I came back from Afghanistan. I took 10 days right when I came back, and that was in like August of 2014. And then, but like being in the Marine Corps and realizing like there's all these things I wanted to do, but I couldn't because I was like restricted. I had to schedule my life around the schedules the Marine Corps had for me, and which I had no problem for because I didn't know what I wanted to do when I joined, and I signed a contract. Like that was the decision I made, and I stuck with it because you really don't have much choice once you get there.
Did you put a little
But like the main
color in your
thing
hair?
that you should do, like if you have the freedom, is just do things you want to do. Like if you want to go, like if you want to travel somewhere, and you have the freedom to do that, you should. Like the meaning of life is to be happy. Like do the best you can to make yourself happy.
Not bad.
But
Not bad.
that being said, you shouldn't live your life in a way that makes other people unhappy. It's one thing if like just the things you do really like irritate people and they're like, "Oh, that's not normal. You shouldn't do that." That would be living inside the box. But like if you're like legit, like if you what makes you happy is running around like robbing people, then it's probably not a good decision. But like I said earlier, to each their own. I mean, if you rob people and you go to jail and you die, and that's what made you happy, then you died happy. But so you should live your life to be as happy as you can. That may not be centered around money. I know plenty of people that would rather just hike in the mountains for countless hours than have like money and go spend money on ridiculous meals and all kinds of things. But the second thing that I believe you should do, like the meaning of life, comes into like you should provide something to the world. So I want to provide content that people find enjoyable. So I started a YouTube channel. This is my first video. And, we'll see how it goes. If people enjoy it, people enjoy it. If they don't, it's still making me happy and it's not hurting anybody. So there's nothing wrong with it. There's multiple ways I feel that you can provide something to the world. One of the things I classically say to like people or whatever is, oh, like if I died tomorrow, it would be okay. Because one, not everybody's going to feel like this, and some people might disagree. I joined the military and I served my country. I didn't do anything too crazy. It's not like I got shot at by anybody or I shot anybody or I seen anybody die like directly. But I did serve my country. I put myself out there that I could have been in situations like that, and not many people do that. That being said, the military is not for everybody. Another way that I feel like, going back to what I said, I've done everything I need to do. If I died tomorrow, it'd be okay. Because
Yeah, not bad.
I have a daughter. And I feel that even if I don't contribute anything, I've had a child. And she could, possibly find the cure for cancer, or, invent something that changes the world. And I've like provided to the world that way. I'm not saying that she will, but I feel that if I don't do anything else besides raise my daughter to be a good human being, and try to do something good for the world with like the same morals and values that I have, that I believe are decent morals and values, then she could bring something good to the world. If she doesn't, she may have a kid and her kid may bring something good to the world. You never know. A majority of criminals come from broken families, like families with alcoholic mothers or fathers, and they didn't really get the attention that they needed. And so if that can affect them to be a menace to society, and you think the opposite about, treating your child with love and care and raising them with strong values, then they could bring something good to society. So that's the two ways that I feel you can bring something good to this world. You can provide something to this world. With military and children. And another way, a third way, which is just kind of like a blanket answer to cover anything, is if you don't have to do either one of those two things, but you just like help your community, or you do something to take part in the world, because it's a big place and you're a small part of it. But if everybody tries to do something to make it better, then the world would eventually be a better place, And that's a big task to like ask, and it seems impossible, but I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who wish something would change, and if they just all came together, they could change it. It's like that movie Pay It Forward, where I don't know if anybody, if you've seen it, then you know what I'm talking about, but it's got the little kid from what's the movie called? Sixth Sense. The little kid who says, "I see dead people." He's in it with, I believe, Kevin Spacey. And the point of the story is this kid comes up with an idea, and he says, "I help 3 people." And like the rule is, when he helps these people, he tells them, "Okay, I helped you, so now you have to help 3 people." And so after he's helped 3 people, if they all 3 go help 3 people, that's 9 people, plus the 3 that he helped, that's 12 people. And it keeps going on, and so on, and so on, so it's like an upside down pyramid. And if like people tried to do that, I mean, we could really make a difference in the world. So you don't have to do anything crazy. Like, give your life to your country, or you might not want to have kids. It might be a scary thought to you, or you might not feel that you could raise a kid properly. And I mean, that's a decision you have to make. And I think a lot of people make the decision to have a kid without thinking about things like that. They're just careless, and they say, "I want a kid," and they're not ready for a kid at the time they're in their life, and it leads to financial problems and stress in the household. And then you have families that are broken apart. You have children that get like alcoholic mothers because their dad left because he couldn't handle, the financial distress.
Huh?
But
Grognak the barbarian in the jungle of the Bat Baby.
that's my thought on the meaning of life, To sum it up, you should live a happy life for yourself and try to give back to someone anywhere in the world. Yeah, it could just be helping like an old lady across the street. Someone could see that, and it could change their lives. They'd be like, "Well, that was a nice thing of that person to do. Maybe I want to do something good." And it's just a chain reaction. All right. So that was question 1. What is the meaning of life? Question number 2. This one's kind of way different than
Good morning.
the last question I asked. But is violence sometimes necessary? Examples: self-defense or defending someone else who cannot be defended themselves. So this is obviously a question that everybody's going to have a different opinion on. And my opinion, a lot of people might not like, but I think that yes. I've thought about this multiple times. If someone like came at me, mainly if I was with my family, like my wife and my kid, because
Then I'm glad you caught up with me.
it's not like my wife is the most like
Me too. You have no idea.
physically capable when it comes to like a fight, like
I won't take up much of your time.
she's not very strong. She's like small. She could be like
Precious, come on.
manipulated really easy. And then obviously my daughter is only like a year old, so a year and a half. So she's not gonna be able to defend herself. And I have a lot of times where I go through these scenarios in my head, like, if someone came at me right now, what would I do to protect my family? And a lot of times my mind goes to a place, well, I would go as far as to, like, I would go as far as the other person is willing to take it, because I'm going to do whatever I can to protect my family. It goes back to, like, my happiness, and I'm protecting the fruits that I've sown, my daughter, that I feel can do something in the world. If I let something happen to her, then there's no way that could ever happen.
Sounds great.
There's other cases where I feel that violence is sometimes necessary. Sometimes it's not it's not that it is necessary, but sometimes it's needed. Like, I don't know how to say this. It's a very touchy subject, but
Sure, let's do it.
like, wars happen, and a lot of times I feel personally that, how do I want to do this? Think about just going for a random build with just weird stuff on here. I want some endurance, some strength. Alright, what was I saying? Kind of lost my train of thought there. Oh, I have to do a name. Sometimes I feel like, okay, this is how I feel a lot of times, like, I feel like America in general has their hands in too much in the world right now. Like, yeah, like, we're like a big country. We have a really big fighting force. We have the biggest navy in the world right now.
Thanks again.
Hey, it's peaceable.
And I know that, like, America feels like, oh, we should help the little guy and go help these people out and these people out, but
Good answer.
there's a lot of times when, like, those people don't want our help. Like, we just kind of step in and it's like, oh, yeah, we're here to help, and they're like, well, we really didn't want it, like, you're kind of coming in here, and while you're helping us, you're trying to, like, some way, like, wiggle your belief systems and your morals and, like, your values of your country that most people in your country feel into our society. That's just not how we work. That's not how we've been working. And I'm not saying that it's completely wrong. Like, good on America's leaders to think, oh, we should help them. But, in the grand scheme of things, they're actually probably just doing it for monetary reasons. Like, because whether you believe it or not, wars do bring a lot of money sometimes. I'm not saying all wars do. I honestly don't think the war in Afghanistan has brought any like good. I don't believe the war in Afghanistan has brought anything of value to America, besides, like, when it first happened. Because there are a lot of, like, smaller terrorist groups. They, like, branch off from the Taliban that are, like, I guess you would say, stationed in Afghanistan. Like, they're out there. But, I mean, that's just because the country of Afghanistan has been in war for years. Like, if you look back in history at, like, any time in Afghanistan, they have been at war. Most of the time, it's been between their own religion, like, different groups of their religion. Like, one group feels this way and another group feels this way. And that's just how that country has been around. So they've always been in the dumps. They've always had a hard time, and we want to go over there and try to stop the terrorists, but it's not as clean cut as, like, you think. It's not like they all just sit in one, like, little hut and they're like, oh yeah, this is where we hang out. Like, they're spread out, and they pay people from the, like, from Afghanistan. They're like, hey, if you go plant this IED, we'll give you like $100. And the average income for an Afghanistan male, when I was in Afghanistan, 2014, the average income for an Afghanistan male a week was like $2. So you tell somebody, hey, I'll give you $100 right now if you just go bury this. Like, it's very tempting. Think about a life that you have where you have very little, you know, like everything you do goes to like just like feeding like you and probably a family. You know, $2 a week is not a lot. Oh my gosh, I forgot what I need to do to make this happen here. But
How are the two most important men in my life?
what was I saying? Okay, so you get $2 a week and you have to provide everything for your family. If someone offers you $100, it's very tempting. Another thing that's happened very often was the same people who were getting paid like $100 to go bury an ID. The U.S. government at one time was offering like, I think it was like $25, $50 like a reward if you could
Wonder what Shauna brought.
if someone came up and said, oh, I know where ID is, they would give you like $25, $50. You know, it was kind of a way of like, let's help out this place by, you know, giving them some money, and then it'll benefit us. Like we'll find out where IDs are to protect people's lives. What was happening was there's some people who are getting paid to bury the IDs, and then they found out about the military paying people to tell them where IDs were. So they would go bury them, get $100 there, then come to the little military outpost and be like, oh, I know where ID is. It's right here. And they would get like $120 to $150 for burying one IED. Because most of these people honestly didn't want anybody to get hurt. So, like, in their mind, you know, it's a win-win. Like, oh, yeah, I got paid by these guys to bury this IED, but at the same time, I'm getting to tell the military about it, and nobody's getting hurt. So I'm getting paid twice, and I'm helping somebody out. But a lot of them got in trouble because, you know, we have systems, like we see a lot out there. And, like, when you see a guy who comes multiple times to inform you of an IED, and then he gets seen on a drone burying ID, then we know. But I mean, so that was like kind of way off topic from where I started, where the violence is necessary in some situations of the war. It was way off topic, but what I was going to say is we shouldn't have our hands in everything, but at the same time, if like America doesn't do anything about it, then people would run all over us. So there's sometimes, if someone's like overstepping their ground, then obviously we should step up and do something. Like, that's not saying we should just go in and annihilate everyone, but that's why I think violence may be necessary sometimes in the case of war. And the others are defending you know, people who can't defend themselves or defending yourself. Alright. That was kind of long and strung out, and I apologize. I'm really sorry. The third question is, who am I?
Okay, go ahead.
So, to answer this question, you really have to look deep. But, like, this is a weird thing to think about. The fact is, most people feel that, like when you're walking, like most people feel like when you're walking down the street and you see all these bystanders walking by you, like, you don't like directly think this, but like in your mind, you feel like, oh, those are like extras in the film of my life, or those are extras in a movie about me, you know. But in all reality, they all have their own individual lives and uniqueness that could be more unique than you or less unique, but they still have their own lives. But there's this like general feeling that like people have when they're around people, especially they don't know, like big cities, when you're just walking by, like, oh, that's just groups of people. Like, you don't stop and think that every single one of those people have their own individual lives, own families, own thoughts that you'll never know. So when it comes to the question, who am I? No matter how famous or unfamous, how well known or not known I am, in the grand scheme of things, I'm pretty much a nobody. You know, like, unless I personally, come up with a cure for like a deathly disease or virus that like no one has a cure for, then I'm really nobody. Like there's famous like people out there and actors and stuff, and like, yeah, they've donated lots of money to these people and these places and everything, and everybody knows them. But I mean, really, besides them having like nicer cars and bigger homes, their life is like no different than yours. Like, yeah, they may travel more often, but they have a family, they have friends, they both put their pants on one leg at a time. And that's the thing that people should think about. Like, yeah, in one way you're not unique at all. Well, I guess that's kind of like rude to say. Like, everybody is unique, but when everybody is unique, then you're just normal. That's my feeling on it. Like, everybody is different. No person is the same. No person has the exact same ideals as somebody and likes the exact same things. But you should always remember that even though like nobody knows who you are, everybody knows who, like, say, Brad Pitt. Everybody knows who Brad Pitt is. Angelina Jolie. They wake up in the morning and they put their clothes on the same as you and I. They may wear nicer clothes than you and I, but that's not really going to matter when you're dead. A lot more people might remember them because of movies and stuff they were in. But if you die and the people in your community and your family remember you, and they have like good stories to tell, like, to future generations, like when I have grandkids one day, if I have like good memories of my daughter and she has something to tell her kids, there's something to me that's being remembered on down the line. And that'll never like go away, like it'll always be there until somebody forgets about me. But one day all these famous people that is known now, it may take longer, but people are going to be like, well, who was that guy? Or one day they won't even be asking that question because no one will know who it is. But as time goes on as well, things like that are going to be harder and harder to do because things are being recorded a lot better. Like, history-wise, like, think about like 100 years ago, any piece of history had to be wrote down on like a piece of paper or typed in a typewriter. They might have had a typewriter 100 years ago. I can't remember my history class of when typewriters were made, but I'm pretty sure they had typewriters 100 years ago. That's 1916. So, and now we literally have everyday people who like post their everyday lives on Facebook, YouTube, all these places that they can pretty much put every detail of their life on every day. So when we get like 1,000 years in the future, who's to say that some like young kid who's just like searching the web, going through all these like random files, he might find your file, like somehow he accesses like old Facebook files and he accesses yours and he learns about you, and to him, even though he never heard of you and he knows nothing about you, he'll be able to talk about what he found to other people, and you'll be remembered even way past like someone might even way past anybody in your family might remember you. That's like the great thing about the way technology is developing. Even the average day Joe can be remembered because everything is on the internet. Anything you ever post, anything you ever do, every picture, every video, anything. I mean, just about now, like, even things you don't want to be on the internet, like phone calls, conversations, like things like that are being monitored, whether you want to believe it or not. and all that's being stored somewhere. There's information on you everywhere. So even though everybody is a nobody, everybody is a somebody to someone. Your story or the things you did in life may get to some kid 1,000 years from now, and be like, oh, well, wow, this guy in 2016 did this. That was pretty interesting, you know? So never think anything you do is completely wasteless, but remember at the same time, your life is no different than anybody else's, and we're all going to live and die, and we could possibly be forgotten, and we could possibly be remembered for years to come. We might be forgotten for like a millennial, and then somehow, some way, somebody activates some ancient technology, which would be what we think is futuristic technology now, and they'd be like, wow, this guy did this. I mean, you can look at it now. People find random like journals and stuff from like, I don't know, like the Roman soldiers. Like someone might find a journal for him, like in that area in Europe, and they'll read about his life, and it'd be like the most interesting thing that they've ever seen. But in all reality, he probably had a pretty average life. But to somebody who finds that, they're gonna think, oh wow, that was pretty unique. Like,
Giant
uh,
roaches?
I never knew that about like the Romans, you know. And the same could be for you, because the world's gonna change in a drastic way, or we're gonna look like primitive beings compared to the future, or we're all gonna destroy the ozone layer and we're gonna burn in a ball of flame in like 100 years. But you never know, so you can't live your life thinking, oh, what's the point of doing anything, because the world's not gonna be here anymore. Well, the world will still be here. The human race may not be on it, but Earth will probably be fine. It might be scorched, but there'll be some form of life form that figures out a way to live on Earth. So people shouldn't worry about that. People are more worried about
Nice. Coming back later for you.
more worried about humanity. When I mean, if you honestly think about it, we're almost like a virus to the Earth. Like a majority of the things we do cause problems
Terminal only.
to a livable Earth for human beings. So we're bad for ourselves. That's a whole nother topic. But I've answered these 3 questions, and you know, I'm gonna play a little bit more and just kind of ramble a little bit more. Everybody should think about these questions and try to answer them yourself. Like you know, it might provide some inner knowledge to yourself that could be valuable to you. It may not be valuable to everybody. What you think may not matter to anybody else, but you know, it could unlock like a internal. Uh, it could broaden like your view on life and how you feel. You could be living your life in a very caged scenario, like you're living by what you see, what you think is the norm. You know, you're just on a repeat. You wake up, go to work, go to sleep, wake up, go to work. You know, you may think about this and then go, wow, like I really been living my life like a laboratory rat. You know, and you may step out of your comfortable zone, and you might introduce yourself into things that you find enjoyable and happiness. And that's something that, as a human race, we really need right now, because I don't know how to melee. There's a lot of cases of depression and people not feeling satisfied with the things they've done in life. And it's not a happy way to live, so I encourage all of you to find something you enjoy doing and, you know, help out as much as you can. You know, that your happiness may be, you know, community service, which would be perfect, because you could provide to your community and cause your happiness. Well, I'm going to open these vault doors real quick, and it's going to be about all I do. I didn't play too much of the game. That's one thing that I just noticed that I need to work on better, is definitely be able to play more while I talk. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you found something in it that, helped you out with your life experiences. If you want to see more stuff like that, just leave me a comment. Comment some of the answers that you have to these questions. I'll reread them again. The first question is, what is the meaning of life? The second question is, that I rambled on for a while, is violence sometimes necessary? Example, self-defense, defending someone who can't defend themselves. If you have other examples, put them in the comments. Tell me what you think. The third question is, who am I? That's a question everybody should ask themselves. Who are you? If you have a better answer to this question, then feel free to put in the comments. Start a forum. You don't even have to do it in my video. Start a forum within your own group or community, wherever you are, on Reddit, Imgur, Facebook. Ask these questions. Just start a conversation, because people really need to think about this. And if you want to see more stuff like this, if you want to see certain frequently asked questions, because I plan on doing a bunch of frequently asked questions. It's not always going to be like deep thinking about life. Just let me know. Leave a like and comment below, guys. I hope you have a good day and enjoyable life, and I'll see you next time.